Prime ministers come, prime ministers go, but some things never change. The so-called online harms bill was put on hold at the start of the last Tory leadership race 3 months ago, but it's still out there, and apparently they are keen to bring it back. On Monday's show, David Starkey said that we had been governed since 1997 by one continuous, unbroken new Labour government. And the result is the wreckage you see all around. If you want more of that, support the online harms bill and its disturbing legislative innovations such as the concept of, quote, legal but harmful, which the already too powerful regulator, Ofcom, will be granted even more powers to police on the internet. The online harms bill will cement in law the central reality of British media in the 21st century, that every aspect of our public discourse can only be framed within the approved official narrative. You heard about the vicar's wife arrested, bullied and intimidated by the shock troops of the Surrey Constabulary over her internet posts, and you were thinking of maybe tweeting about it. Ooh, steady, steady, that might be legal. But it could also be considered, quote, harmful to the trans community. You were thinking of saying something about who's raping thousands of little girls in Telford, Oldham, Rotherham, Rochdale. Oh, yes, that might be technically legal for you to express an opinion on, but it could be super harmful to members of the Pakistani Muslim community. You were minded to weigh in on the hordes of, quote, asylum seekers being ushered into the express check-in every night by the Royal National Lifeboat Institution's one-way cross-channel water taxi service. Oh, yes, that is still just about legal, but it's also totally racist and certainly harmful to members of the Sudanese warlord, Somali jihadist and Albanian gangster communities. Britain is broke and kaput, and one reason for that is the lockstep groupthink enforced by Ofcom and social media these last 3 years. It would be nice to have a proper accounting of just how disastrous it's all been, but the First Minister of Wales says no need for Wales' COVID inquiry as world has moved on. I wish. Instead of moving on, we're enshrining the madness in law now and forever. Headline from our friends at the Conservative Woman. California doctors must back COVID, quote-unquote, consensus or be criminalised. That's true. And the governor behind that bill, Gavin Newsom, is quite likely to be the Democrat presidential nominee in 2024. Because with every passing day, it's clear the Dems are getting ready to ditch the dead husk of Joe Biden and the somewhat more animated husk, but still entirely brain-dead, Kamala Harris. So President Newsom will be doing what he's done to California nationwide. By the way, it's not just those crazy libs in La La Land. A similar bill is before our Commonwealth cousins in the Queensland Parliament, criminalising any dissent as, quote, disinformation. Does His Majesty's government, whether here or down under, actually have a definition of disinformation? The word is bandied relentlessly. Here is a lady called Daria Dugina. Who is she? Well, the government of the United Kingdom described her as, quote, a frequent and high-profile contributor of disinformation in relation to Ukraine and the Russian invasion of Ukraine on various online platforms. Ooh, an online disinformer. Can't have that. Well, you'll be pleased to hear Miss Dugina got hers. Her car was blown up in Moscow in August, and she wound up in 40 million pieces all over the tarmac. 29 years old. Yeah, baby. Blow it a kingdom come. That's the only language these disinformers understand. The Russians said that the Ukrainians had assassinated her, but that was dismissed as just more Russian disinformation, so pay no attention to it. Oh, sorry, breaking news, headline from yesterday's New York Times. Look at this. US believes Ukrainians were behind an assassination in Russia. American officials said they were not aware of the plan ahead of time for the attack that killed Daria Dugina and that they had admonished Ukraine over it. What? They admonished the sainted Zelensky? I don't believe a word of that. Between the Vogue photo shoots and the war zone strolls with Bono, he's got no time in his diary for an admonishing session. But set aside the billions we're lavishing on the Ukrainian government so they can fully fund targeted assassinations of young women on the streets of Moscow. Here's the real point. In August, it was, quote, Russian disinformation to suggest that Ukraine had assassinated Miss Dugina. 6 weeks later, it's accepted fact. The only disinformers were the guys who told us this was disinformation. And so it goes. So what will you still be free to do? Well, if you're a purported late-night comedian, you'll be free to do lame-ass propaganda stunts in support of the 37th booster shot. Here's Stephen Colbert of the American network CBS taking Dr. Fauci, the J. Edgar Hoover of public health. He's been in his job for 55 years, since the Johnson administration, if you remember that far back. Here's Stephen Colbert taking Doc Fauci to get his latest jab.
Are you worried at all about the new booster?
No.
No?
No.
Are you worried? You're not worried that the 5G chip that it puts in you is going to interfere with the 3G chip from the last one?
Bill Gates and I decided we're going to take the chips out now. We're not going to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Funny. I'm corpsing. I'm doubled up. Oh, no, wait. I think I'm coming down with sudden adult death syndrome. We interview people on this show whose husbands, parents, children are dead from this vaccine. There's Vicky and Charlotte right there, widowed in their 30s. But to the highest paid and longest serving bureaucrat in the United States government, it's all just fodder for comedy sketches about paranoid conspiracy theorists. State-compliant comedy. That's no laughing matter. If you want more of this, support the online harms bill and help add to the ever-lengthening list of topics on which only one side of the story can be told. Trans insanity, migrants, serial child gang rape, and yes, public health and the right to informed consent to what the state wants to stick in your body. While it's still legal to be legal but harmful. We're going to get into it with Kelvin McKenzie, Leilani Dowding, two doctors from Queensland. Oh, what's next after the online harms bill? How about the in-skull harms bill? Klaus Schwab, the sinister Teutonic megalomaniac, hiding in plain sight as a sinister Teutonic megalomaniac, is looking forward to a world where he doesn't have to wait for you to tweet because he will already know what you are thinking.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants, and we measure your brain waves, and I can immediately tell you how the people react, or I can feel how the people react to your answers. Is it imaginable?
Oh, no, Mr. Bond. I expect you to be chipped. Let me know your thoughts. GBviews at gbnews.uk.